Good morning, Pilgrim. It's time for Grace Abounding by John Bunyan. His life story, written by himself. We're taken up at 20 where we left off. But one day, amongst all the sermons our parson made, his subject was to treat of the Sabbath day and of the evil of breaking that, either with labor, sports, or otherwise. Now, I was, notwithstanding my religion, one that took much delight in all manner of vice, and especially that was a day that I did solace myself therewith. Wherefore I fell in my conscience under his sermon, thinking and believing that he made that sermon on purpose to show me my evil doing. And at that time I felt what guilt was, though never before, that I can remember anyway. But then I was, for the present, greatly loaded down with that feeling, and so went home when the sermon was ended with a great burden upon my spirit. This, for that instant, did benumb the sinews of my best delights, and did embitter my former pleasures to me. But behold, it didn't last long. For before I had well dined, the trouble began to go off my mind, and my heart returned to its old course. But how glad was I that this trouble was gone from me, and that the fire was put out, that I might sin again without control. Wherefore, when I had satisfied nature with my food, I shook the sermon out of my mind, and to my old custom of sports and gaming I returned with great delight. But the same day, as I was in the midst of a game at cat. Okay, I'll tell you later when I'm through what that's about. Anyway, but the same day as I was in the midst of a game at cat, and having struck it one blow from the hole, just as I was about to strike it the second time, a voice suddenly darted from heaven into my soul, which said, "Wilt thou leave thy sins and go to heaven, or have thy sins and go to hell?" At this I was put to an exceeding amazement. Wherefore, leaving my cat upon the ground, I looked up to heaven, and was as if I had said with the eyes of my understanding, seen the Lord Jesus looking down upon me as being very hotly displeased with me, and as if he did severely threaten me with some grievous punishment for these and other of my ungodly practices. I had no sooner thus conceived in my mind, but suddenly this conclusion was fastened to my spirit, for the former hint did set my sins again before my face, that I had been a great and a grievous sinner, and that it was now too late for me to look after heaven, for Christ would not forgive me, nor pardon my transgressions. Then I fell to musing upon this also, and while I was thinking on it, and fearing lest it should be so, I felt my heart sink in despair, concluding it's too late, it's way too late. And therefore I resolved in my mind I would go on in sin. For thought I, if the case be thus, my state is surely miserable. Miserable if I leave my sins, but miserable if I follow them. I can but be damned, and if I must be so, I had as good be damned for many sins as to be damned for a few. Thus I stood in the midst of my play, before all them that were present, but yet I told them nothing. But I say, I having made this conclusion, I returned desperately to my sport again, and I will remember that presently this kind of despair did so possess my soul that I was persuaded I would never attain to other comfort than what I should get in sin. For heaven was already gone. It was gone already, so that on that I must not think. Wherefore I found within me a great desire to take my fill of sin, still studying what sin was set to be committed, that I might taste the sweetness of it. And I made as much haste as I could to fill my belly with its delicacies, lest I should die before I had my desire. For that I feared greatly. In these things I protest before God. I lie not, neither do I feign this sort of speech. These were really, strongly, and with all my heart, my desires. The good Lord, whose mercy is unsearchable, forgive me my transgressions. And I'm very, very confident that this temptation of the devil is more than usual amongst poor creatures, and many are aware of, even to overrun their spirits with a scurvy and seared frame of heart and benumbing of conscience, which frame be stilly and slyly supplied with such despair that, though not much guilt attends the soul, yet they continually have a secret conclusion within them that there's no hope for them, for they have loved their sins so much, therefore after them they will go. Jeremiah 2:25, keep your feet from going unshod and your throat from thirst. But you said, it's hopeless, for I have loved foreigners, and after them I'll go. 18:12, but they say, that is in vain. We will follow our own plans, and we will everyone act accordingly to the stubbornness of our evil hearts. Yeah, all is lost. I won't try for heaven. I will go to Jesus. Now therefore I went on in my sin, with great greediness of mind, still grudging that I could not be so satisfied with it as I would. This did continue with me about a month or more, but one day, as I was standing at a neighbor's shop window, and there cursing and swearing and playing the madman, after my wonted manner, there sat within the woman of the house, and she heard me, who, though she was a very loose and ungodly wretch, yet protested that I swore and cursed at the most fearful rate, that she was made to tremble to hear me, and told me further that I was the ungodliest fellow for swearing that ever she heard in all her life, and that I, by thus doing, was able to spoil all the youth in the whole town if they came but into my company. At this reproof I was silenced and put to secret shame, and that too, as I thought, before the God of heaven. Wherefore, while I stood there and hanging down my head, I wished with all my heart that I might be a little child again, that my father might learn me to speak without this wicked way of swearing, always swearing. For I thought, I am so accustomed to it, that it is in vain for me to think of a reformation, for I thought it could never be. But how it came to pass, I don't know. I did from this time forward so leave my swearing that it was a great wonder to myself to observe it. And whereas before I knew not how to speak unless I put an oath before and another behind to make my words have authority, now I could, without it, speak better and with more pleasantness than ever I could before. All this while I knew not Jesus Christ, neither did I leave my sports and my plays. But quickly after this, I fell in company with one poor man that made profession of religion, who, as I then thought, did talk pleasantly about the Scriptures and of the matters of religion. Wherefore, falling into some love and liking to what he said, I betook me to the Bible, and began to take great pleasure in reading, but especially with the historical part thereof. For as for Paul's epistles and scriptures of that nature, I could not away with them. I couldn't understand them, being as yet but ignorant, either of the corruptions of my nature or of the want and worth of Jesus Christ to save me. And I'm going to leave it go there for today. But before I end this, I struck that word cat. I think, what is that? Well, so as is my usual habit, I went to the internet and I Googled cat ball court. I found in College, Durham, England. Anyway, here's a game of cat. It is a seven. It is a seven-a-side. That means a seven-man team. Played with a hard ball, smaller than a tennis ball, but larger than a golf ball. It is traditionally played on an open field with an 80-yard circular track that has 7 holes, around which the batting team assemble. Each bat has a shaft similar to a golf club and a flattened bottle-shaped head 4 inches long and 2 inches in diameter. The bats were made from ash. The forerunner of golf. How many today, when they really get comfortable in life and they get a little money up, because I could never afford to play golf. It was too expensive for this poor boy. Spend their lives with something like golf. They spend their Sundays out there playing golf, just like Bunyan. No time for God on Sundays, but time for golf. Well, I'm going to leave with those thoughts, and we'll come back tomorrow to this book. God bless, Pilgrim. Have a blessed, blessed, blessed day.